The sun was just coming up over London. The sky turned from dark blue to light pink. It was going to be a special day that people would remember for many years. All across the city, people were getting ready. Some put up flags on the streets. Others set out chairs to sit and watch. News people from many countries checked their cameras and microphones. Police stood in neat lines along the main roads. Everyone was waiting for the same thing: to see the royal family. Today was the 100th birthday of the Queen's favorite charity. It was a big deal. The royal family would go to the old church in the middle of the city for a special service. After that, they would wave to the people from the famous balcony. The whole world would be watching. Inside the royal house, Prince William woke up early. He stood by his window and looked out at the gardens. He could see people already waiting outside the gates. Some had been there all night, just to get a good spot to see his family. William felt proud, but also a little nervous. Days like this were important. He had to make sure everything went well. In another room, Kate was already dressed. She wore a simple but pretty blue dress. Blue was the color of the charity they were celebrating today. Kate looked in the mirror and put on the earrings that once belonged to William's mother. She always wore them on special days. They'd brought good luck. "Mummy, is it time yet?" Charlotte came into the room still in her pajamas. Her hair was messy from sleep. "Not yet, sweetie," Kate said with a smile. "First, we need to get you dressed and have breakfast. The cars won't be here for 2 hours." Charlotte ran to the window and gasped. "Look at all the people," she said, pointing down to the street. Kate came to look. "They're very excited to see you and your brothers today," she told Charlotte. "Remember to smile and wave, just like we practiced." In his room, George was already putting on his special outfit. He was the oldest child and took his duties very seriously. At 10 years old, he already understood that one day he would be king. He straightened his tie, just like his father had taught him. George wanted to make his parents proud. Little Louis, only 5 years old, was jumping on his bed. His nanny was trying to catch him to get him dressed. "I don't want to wear the itchy suit," Louis shouted, laughing as he bounced. "But you look so handsome in it," the nanny said. "And there will be cake after the ceremony." Louis stopped jumping. "What kind of cake?" "Chocolate, I think, with strawberries on top." "Okay, I'll wear the suit," Louis decided. Cake was worth being a little itchy. Downstairs, the staff hurried around. They packed special bags with everything the family might need: tissues, small snacks for the children, extra shoes in case it rained. Security men checked their earpieces and radios. The head guard looked at his watch. 1 hour until we leave," he told his team. The royal chef made a special breakfast. There were eggs and toast cut into fun shapes for the children. There was fruit and tea for the adults. The family would need energy for the long day ahead. Outside, the crowds grew bigger. People shared coffee and stories as they waited. Some had traveled from far away just for today. Old ladies wore their best hats. Children sat on their parents' shoulders to see better. Everyone wanted to be part of this historic day. The royal family sat around the big table for breakfast. William checked his watch every few minutes. Kate noticed and gave him a small smile. She knew he always worried about being late. "Everything is ready," she said. "The children look perfect, and we have plenty of time." Louis had jam on his chin. Kate wiped it off with a napkin. Charlotte sat up very straight, trying to be as proper as her mother. George read a small card with notes about the people they would meet today. "Will the Prime Minister be there?" George asked his father. William nodded. "Yes, and leaders from many other countries too. This is a very important day for Britain." A knock came at the door. The head of security entered the room and bowed slightly. "Your Royal Highnesses, the cars are ready whenever you are," he said. The family finished breakfast quickly. The staff helped the children put on their coats. It was sunny outside, but spring in London could turn cold without warning. William took a deep breath and looked at his family. "Remember," he said to the children, People have been waiting for hours just to see us for a few seconds. Your smiles mean a lot to them." The children nodded. Even Louis looked serious for a moment. Outside, 3 black cars waited in a line. They were shiny and clean. Small flags flew on the front of each car. Security men stood by each door. The family walked out together. Cameras clicked from the gates. Some of the staff waved goodbye. In the main car, William and Kate sat in the back with Charlotte between them. George and Louis rode in the car behind with their nanny. The third car carried extra security. As the cars drove through the palace gates, people cheered and waved flags. Charlotte waved back, her small hand moving just as she had practiced. "Look at all the people," she said. "There are so many." Kate smiled. "They're very happy to see you." The cars moved slowly through London. Police on motorcycles rode in front and behind them. People lined the streets, 10 deep in some places. They held up phones to take pictures. William pointed out famous buildings to Charlotte as they passed. "That's where I went to school when I was a boy," he said as they passed an old stone building. "Did you like it?" Charlotte asked. "Most days," William said with a smile. "But I missed home sometimes." In the car behind, Louis pressed his face against the window. "Someone has a dog with a crown on its head," he told George, pointing at a small dog wearing a tiny toy crown. George tried to look cool and calm like his father, but he couldn't help smiling at the funny dog. He waved at the people, trying to copy the way his grandmother used to wave. The cars turned onto the main road that led to the church. Here, the crowds were even bigger. TV cameras stood on tall platforms. People from all over the world held up signs saying, "We love you, Kate," and "George for future king." Inside the first car, Kate checked her hair in a small mirror. William straightened his tie. Charlotte practiced her curtsy one more time. The church came into view. It was very old and very beautiful. Stone angels looked down from its high towers. The big doors stood open. Important people in fancy clothes waited on the steps. The first car stopped at the bottom of the steps. A man in a red uniform opened the door. William got out first, then turned to help Kate and Charlotte. The crowd cheered so loudly that Charlotte covered her ears for a second. The second car stopped. George stepped out, looking much older than his years. He helped Louis, who jumped down with excitement. The royal family stood together at the bottom of the steps. Hundreds of cameras flashed at once. The historic day was now truly beginning. The royal family stood at the bottom of the church steps. Many important people waited to greet them. The archbishop, wearing long white robes, came down first. He had a big smile and shook William's hand. "Welcome, your royal highnesses," he said. "We are honored to have you with us today." William thanked him. The children did small bows and curtsies just as they had practiced. Louis almost fell over when he bowed, and a few people smiled. Kate put her hand on his shoulder to steady him. Next came the Prime Minister and other government leaders. They all bent their heads slightly when they talked to William and Kate. George watched how his father spoke to each person. He would need to do this himself someday. A little girl in a pretty dress came forward. She held a bunch of flowers that looked almost too big for her small hands. She walked up to Charlotte and stopped. Everyone watched. "These are for you, Princess," the little girl said in a quiet voice. "My gran and I grew them in our garden." Charlotte took the flowers carefully. "Thank you very much," she said. "They're beautiful. What's your name?" "Emma," the girl whispered. "Thank you, Emma. I'll put them in water when I get home," Charlotte said. The crowd clapped and took pictures. The family began to walk up the steps. Louis counted them out loud. 1, 2, 3. By the time they reached the top, he had counted 22 steps. Inside the church, it was cool and quiet. Colored light came through the big windows. The windows showed pictures made of small pieces of glass. Kate pointed to one window that showed a mother and child. "Look at the pretty colors," she told Louis, who was starting to fidget. People stood up when the family walked down the center aisle. An organ played music that filled the whole building. The sound was so big that Louis put his hands over his ears again. They sat in special chairs at the front. William and Kate sat in the middle with the children between them. George sat very still with his hands folded. Charlotte arranged her dress carefully. Louis swung his legs because they didn't reach the floor. The service began. Men and women in fancy clothes read from old books. A choir of children sang songs. Their voices were high and clear. William closed his eyes for a moment to listen. Music always made him think of his mother. After an hour, Louis began to get restless. He whispered something to Kate. She reached into her small bag and took out a tiny car toy. Louis held it carefully in his palm, trying not to let anyone see. George gave him a look that said, "Behave." Louis stuck out his tongue when no one was looking. When it was time for William's speech, he walked to the front. He stood behind a wooden stand. Papers with his speech lay on top. "Today we celebrate 100 years of helping others," William began. His voice was strong and steady. "This charity has changed many lives for the better." As William spoke, Kate watched with pride. Charlotte sat up even straighter. George listened to every word. Even Louis stopped playing with his toy car. "My grandmother believed in service to others," William continued. "She taught me that a royal title comes with duty, my family, and I promised to continue her work." When he finished speaking, everyone clapped. William returned to his seat. Kate squeezed his hand. He had done well. The Archbishop stood up next. "Now," he said, "we will move to the garden for the unveiling of the memorial statue." The family stood up. It was time for the next part of their day. As they walked down the aisle, people bowed their heads again. Outside, the sun was bright after the darkness of the church. The crowd, which had waited patiently, cheered as the family appeared in the doorway. The garden behind the church was full of color. Red, yellow, and pink flowers grew in neat rows. A white cloth covered something tall in the middle of the garden. This was the new statue they would show to everyone today. People stood in a big circle around the covered statue. When the royal family walked into the garden, everyone turned to look. William led the way with Kate beside him. The children followed, walking carefully on the stone path. "Stay on the path," Kate whispered to Louis. "Don't step on the flowers." Louis nodded. He was trying hard to be good, but it was difficult when there were so many interesting things to see. An old man with many medals on his coat stood near the statue. He had fought in wars long ago. When he saw the family, he stood very straight and did a perfect salute. William walked over to him and shook his hand. "Thank you for your service," William said. The old man's eyes filled with tears. "I served with your grandfather, sir," he said. "He was a good man." William nodded. "Yes, he was," he said softly. George watched this exchange with wide eyes. He knew his father was talking about the man who would have been his great-grandfather. George had seen pictures of him in history books at school. A woman in a smart suit came forward. She was the head of the charity they were celebrating today. She handed William a pair of big golden scissors. "Prince William," she said into a microphone so everyone could hear, "would you do us the honor of unveiling our memorial?" William took the scissors. He looked at Kate, who smiled encouragingly. Charlotte and George stood very still and straight. Louis bounced a little on his toes, excited to see what was under the cloth. William stepped forward. He took hold of a cord attached to the cloth. With one smooth pull, the cloth fell away. There stood a beautiful statue made of shining metal. It showed a group of people helping each other. Some were giving food. Others were building homes. One was teaching children. Everyone clapped and took pictures. Camera flashes went off like tiny lightning bolts. "It's lovely," Kate said. The woman with the microphone spoke again. "This statue represents 100 years of helping those in need. Each figure shows a different way our charity has served." Louis tugged on William's coat. "Daddy," he said in a loud whisper that many people heard, "the statue people don't have any clothes on." People around them laughed. The statue figures were smooth metal with no details for clothes. William bent down to Lewis's level. "That's how many statues are made," he explained quietly. "The artist wants us to see the helping, not the clothes." Lewis thought about this. "Okay," he said, "but it's cold today. They should have coats." More people laughed. Kate put her hand over her mouth to hide her smile. After the statue was shown, there was a small party in a tent. Tables held tiny sandwiches, small cakes, and drinks. The royal family walked around, talking to different people. George spoke to a man who worked in Africa. "How many schools has the charity built?" George asked. The man looked surprised by such a grown-up question from a young boy. Charlotte talked to a group of girl guides who had raised money for the charity. She told them she might join guides when she was older. Lewis found a table with chocolate cakes. He was about to take one when Kate appeared beside him. "Just one," she said with a smile. "And try not to get chocolate on your nice clothes." Lewis took a cake carefully. He ate it in small bites, just like he had been taught. Only a tiny bit of chocolate ended up on his chin. As the party went on, dark clouds began to gather in the sky. The wind picked up, making the tent sides flap. William looked up at the sky. "I think we'll need to move inside soon," he said to Kate. "It looks like rain." The first drops of rain began to fall, big drops that made dark spots on the stone path. People looked up at the sky with worry. The party was not supposed to end yet. "Everyone inside, please," called a man with a loud voice. He was in charge of the day's events. "We will continue in the Great Hall." The guests hurried toward the church building. Some opened umbrellas. Others held newspapers over their heads. The royal family was given big black umbrellas by their security team. William held an umbrella over Kate and Charlotte. George held his own umbrella very proudly. A security man tried to hold one for Lewis, but the little boy wanted to do it himself. "I can do it," Lewis said, reaching for the umbrella. The security man looked at Kate. She nodded, and he gave Lewis the umbrella. It was almost too big for him, but Lewis held it high. He walked carefully, trying not to trip. Just then, a strong gust of wind blew through the garden. It turned Lewis's umbrella inside out. The little boy looked so surprised that everyone around him laughed. His face turned red. William quickly fixed the umbrella and handed it back to Lewis. "It happens to everyone," he said kindly. "Even to me." Lewis smiled, feeling better. The family hurried inside just as the rain began to fall harder. The Great Hall was a big room with stone walls and a high ceiling. Pictures of important people from long ago hung on the walls. A fire burned in a huge fireplace, making the room warm and bright. Servants brought in more food and drinks. A small band began to play soft music. The party continued as if the rain had been planned all along. Kate helped the children dry off with soft towels. Lewis's shoes were a bit wet, but a kind lady found him a new pair that fit just right. "These shoes don't hurt," Lewis said happily. "You can keep them," the lady told him. "My grandson outgrew them." Lewis looked at Kate to see if this was okay. She nodded, and Lewis thanked the lady with a small bow. William was talking to a group of men in dark suits. They were talking about serious things. George stood near his father, listening. He wanted to learn everything he could. Charlotte found a group of children her age. They were the sons and daughters of important guests. At first, they were shy around her. They called her "Your Royal Highness" and did little bows. "You can call me Charlotte," she told them. "Do you want to play a game?" Soon, Charlotte and the other children were playing a quiet game of I Spy in one corner of the hall. They took turns finding things in the room that started with different letters. "I spy something beginning with T," said Charlotte. "Table," guessed one boy. "No." "Teacup," said a girl. "No." "Look up," Charlotte hinted. The children looked up at the ceiling. "Timber beams," shouted a small boy. "That's right." Charlotte clapped her hands. Across the room, Kate watched with a smile. She was happy to see Charlotte making friends so easily. It wasn't always easy being a royal child. Other children were often too nervous to act normal around them. The rain drummed on the high windows. Lightning flashed, making the hall bright for a second. Thunder rumbled, making some of the younger children jump. Louis ran to Kate. "Is the sky angry?" he asked. "No, darling," Kate explained. "It's just the clouds bumping together. Like when you rub your feet on the carpet and touch George, and he gets a little shock." Louis nodded. He understood this. He liked making little shocks on his brother. William came over to his family. "We need to leave soon," he said quietly to Kate. "There's news of flooding on some roads. We should go before it gets worse." Kate nodded. It was time for the next part of their day. But first, they needed to say proper goodbyes to everyone. That was an important part of being royal, always remembering to thank people and say goodbye. William gathered his family together. "We need to say our goodbyes," he told them quietly. "The rain is getting worse." The children nodded. They knew what to do. Kate straightened Louis's collar and brushed a crumb from Charlotte's dress. George was already perfect, standing tall like his father. First, they thanked the Archbishop. He blessed each child with a gentle touch on the head. Louis giggled when the Archbishop's long sleeve tickled his nose. Next, they said goodbye to the charity workers. These were the people who did the real work every day, helping others. William and Kate spent extra time with them, asking questions and listening to their stories. "Thank you for everything you do," Kate told a woman who worked with sick children. "Your work changes lives." The woman smiled with tears in her eyes. "It means so much that you came today," she said. Charlotte gave her flowers to this woman. "I think you should have these," she said. "You deserve flowers more than I do." The woman was so touched she couldn't speak. She hugged Charlotte gently. People around them took pictures of this sweet moment. The Prime Minister came to say goodbye. He and William spoke quietly about the storm. Their car drivers were checking which roads were still safe to use. George shook the Prime Minister's hand firmly, just like his father had taught him. "It was nice to meet you, sir," he said in a clear voice. "And you as well, young man," the Prime Minister replied. "You'll make a fine king someday." George looked down, feeling shy about this big future job. But deep inside, he felt proud too. Louis was getting tired. It had been a long day for a 5-year-old. He leaned against Kate's leg and yawned. "Just a few more minutes," Kate promised, stroking his hair. The head of security came to William. "Sir, the cars are ready. We should leave now before the roads get worse." William nodded. It was time to go. The family made their way to the main entrance where they would exit. Staff handed them fresh umbrellas. Outside, the rain was falling hard. The street looked like a river. The family stood in the doorway, looking out at the bad weather. They could see their cars waiting, lights on, wipers moving fast to clear the rain. "Ready?" William asked his family. "Ready," they answered. Then something unexpected happened. As they stepped out into the rain, people began to appear. The crowds that had been there earlier had not all gone home. Many had waited in the rain, hoping for one more glimpse of the royal family. They stood under umbrellas and raincoats. They cheered when they saw William, Kate, and the children. "They waited in this weather," Kate said, surprised and touched. William smiled. "Let's give them a proper goodbye." Instead of rushing to the cars, the family moved to the edge of the steps. They waved to the crowd. People cheered even louder. A little girl in a yellow raincoat held up a sign. It said, "We love Princess Charlotte," in wobbly letters. Charlotte saw it and waved directly at the girl. The girl jumped up and down with excitement. An old man saluted when William looked his way. William saluted back, showing respect. Louis, seeing all this, found new energy. He jumped up and down, waving with both hands over his head. People laughed and took pictures. Rain fell on their umbrellas. Their shoes got wet, but the family kept waving, showing thanks to the people who had waited in the bad weather just to see them. Finally, It was time to get in the cars. Security men held umbrellas over them as they walked the short distance. William helped Kate into the first car. Then the children climbed in. The doors closed with a solid thud. Inside the car, it was warm and dry. Louis shook his head like a wet dog, sending drops of water flying. Everyone laughed. That wasn't in the royal training manual, William joked, wiping water from his face. The cars began to move slowly through the flooded streets. Their day was not over yet. There was one more important stop to make. The royal cars moved slowly through the rainy streets. Water splashed up from the wheels. Inside the first car, William looked at a message on his phone. "The hospital is ready for us," he told Kate. "They've made sure the children's ward is prepared." Today's special visit was to the city's biggest children's hospital. The royal family was going to open a new play area for sick children. This was the part of the day that Kate was looking forward to most. She loved spending time with children. "Remember," Kate told her own children, "the boys and girls we will meet are very brave. Some of them have been in the hospital for a long time." "Will they be sad?" asked Charlotte. "Some might be," Kate said, "but our visit will make them happy. And the new play area will help them feel better." George looked serious. "Is it like the play area at my school?" "Similar," William said, "but special equipment has been added so that children in wheelchairs or with tubes can play too." Louis, who had been looking out the window, turned to his parents. "Can I show them my new car toy?" Kate smiled. "That's very kind, Louis. I'm sure they would like that." The cars turned into the hospital entrance. Even in the rain, people stood waiting. Nurses in blue uniforms held a big sign that said, "Welcome, Royal Family." They had umbrellas, but some were still getting wet. "Look how happy they are to see us," William said. "Let's not keep them waiting in the rain." The cars stopped at the main door. Security men jumped out first with big umbrellas. The hospital director, a woman with gray hair and kind eyes, waited under the cover of the entrance. William and Kate got out first, then helped the children. Together, they hurried inside, waving to the cheering nurses. "Welcome, Your Royal Highnesses," the director said with a bow. "The children have been counting the minutes until your arrival." Inside, the hospital was bright and colorful. Pictures of animals and stars covered the walls. It didn't look scary at all. A group of doctors and nurses stood in a line, waiting to meet the family. William and Kate shook hands with each one, asking questions about their work. The children stood nearby, watching and learning how to do these royal duties. After meeting the staff, it was time to visit the children. They walked to a big room where many children had gathered. Some sat in wheelchairs. Others had tubes in their arms. A few wore masks to keep away germs. But all of their eyes lit up when the royal family walked in. "It's them. It's really them," a small boy shouted. He was missing both his legs, but his smile was huge. The royal family spread out around the room. Kate went to a group of little girls. Charlotte followed her, suddenly shy but trying to be brave. William sat down with some older boys who were playing a video game. Soon he was laughing and trying to play too, though he wasn't very good at it. George went to a boy about his age who was reading a book about space. "I like space too," George said. Soon they were talking about stars and planets. Louis made straight for a little girl who was crying in her mother's arms. Without being told what to do, he pulled his toy car from his pocket. "You can have it," he said, holding it out to her. "It makes me happy when I'm sad." The little girl stopped crying. She looked at Louis with wide eyes, then at the toy. Slowly, she reached out and took it. "Thank you," her mother whispered, tears in her eyes. Louis just nodded. He felt good inside, like when he helped his mother in the garden or when he learned to write his name. A photographer caught this moment. The picture of little Prince Louis giving away his favorite toy would soon be seen around the world. It would become one of the most famous royal photos ever taken. The time came to open the new play area. The hospital staff led the royal family down a long hallway. Children followed in wheelchairs or walking slowly with their parents. Everyone was excited. A big red ribbon stretched across double doors. A nurse handed William a large pair of scissors with shiny gold handles. "Would one of the children like to help me cut the ribbon?" William asked, looking at the sick children. A small boy with no hair raised his hand. His mother explained that he had been in the hospital longer than any other child. He was fighting a sickness that made his hair fall out. "What's your name?" William asked, kneeling down to the boy's level. "Sam," the boy said in a quiet voice. "Well, Sam, would you like to help me open this new play area?" Sam nodded. His eyes were wide. William helped him hold the big scissors. Together, they cut the ribbon. Everyone clapped and cheered. The doors opened to show a wonderful room. It had soft floors and bright colors everywhere. There were swings made special for children who couldn't sit up by themselves. There were ramps for wheelchairs. Games hung at different heights so all children could reach them. The sick children rushed in, their faces full of joy. Some had not smiled in weeks, but now they couldn't stop. Nurses wiped away tears as they watched. "This will change their days so much," one nurse told Kate. "Before, they just sat in their rooms. Now they can play and forget they're sick for a while." Kate nodded. "Every child deserves to play," she said. "It's how they learn and grow." George, Charlotte, and Louis joined the other children. They didn't act like they were special or different. They just played like normal kids. Louis helped a little boy in a wheelchair reach a toy on a shelf. Charlotte showed a girl with one arm how to play a clapping game using just one hand. George talked to some older boys about his school and listened to their stories too. Photographers took pictures, but stayed back to give the children space. This wasn't about getting perfect royal photos. It was about the joy of children playing together. William noticed one girl sitting alone in the corner. She looked about 7 years old. She had bandages covering half her face. William walked over and sat on a small chair beside her. "Hello," he said. "I'm William. I know who you are," the girl said softly. "You're going to be king someday." William smiled. "That's true. But today, I'm just visiting. What's your name?" "Lily," she said. "I don't look like I used to." There was a fire. William nodded. "I understand. My mother used to visit burn units in hospitals. She told me that scars just show how brave someone is." Lily thought about this. "Was your mother brave?" "Very brave," William said. "Just like you." Lily smiled for the first time. A nurse watching nearby took a photo with her phone. This quiet moment between a future king and a burned little girl would touch hearts around the world. After an hour of playing, it was time to leave. The children were getting tired. Some needed their medicine or rest. The royal family gathered near the door to say goodbye. Hospital staff gave each royal child a small gift: teddy bears wearing doctor coats. The sick children gave them handmade cards with colorful drawings and wobbly writing. "Thank you for coming," Sam said, the boy who had cut the ribbon. "This was the best date ever." Louis looked at his new teddy bear, then at Sam, who had no hair. Without a word, Louis took off his small royal pin from his coat and gave it to Sam. "Now you're royal too," Louis said. Kate put her hand on Louis's shoulder, her eyes shining with pride. Her youngest son was learning the most important royal lesson of all: kindness matters more than crowns. The rain had stopped by the time the royal family left the hospital. The clouds moved away, and the sun came out. It made the wet streets shine like glass. People said it was a good sign. Sunshine after rain, just like smiles after tears at the hospital. The family got back into their cars. The children were quiet now. They were tired after the long, busy day. Louis leaned against Kate, his eyes half closed. Charlotte held her teddy bear doctor close. George looked out the window, thinking about all he had seen. "You all did so well today," William told them. "I'm very proud of you." "Even when my umbrella turned inside out?" Louis asked sleepily. "Especially then," William said with a smile. "You didn't cry or get upset. You just kept going. The cars drove through the city. People still stopped to watch them pass. Some took pictures with their phones. Others just waved. The family waved back, though their arms were getting tired after a day of waving. "Can we have pizza for dinner?" Charlotte asked hopefully. Kate laughed. "Yes, I think you've earned pizza tonight." The cars turned onto the long road that led to their home. Big trees lined both sides of the road. Their branches made patterns of light and shadow on the cars. "Look," George said, pointing ahead. Their home came into view. It was large and grand, with many windows. Flags flew on top. It looked like something from a fairy tale. "Home sweet home," William said. The cars stopped at the front door. Staff came out to greet them. A man took the children's wet coats. A woman asked Kate if they would like dinner soon. Everything was organized and smooth. Inside, the family went straight to their private rooms. These were the parts of the big house that no one else saw. Here, they could be just a normal family. The fancy carpets were a bit worn from play. Toys sat on expensive tables. Family photos hung on walls that had seen hundreds of years of history. The children changed into comfortable clothes. William took off his tie with a happy sigh. Kate kicked off her high shoes. They all met in the family kitchen, a cozy room with a big wooden table. Pizza arrived, hot and smelling wonderful. The family sat around the table. They didn't use fancy plates or silver forks. They ate pizza with their hands and drank juice from normal glasses. "What was your favorite part of today?" Kate asked as she cut Louis's pizza into smaller pieces. "The statue," said George. "It showed how people help each other." "The game with the other children at the hospital," said Charlotte. "They taught me new clapping patterns." "Sam," said Louis simply. He was brave with no hair. William and Kate shared a look. Their children were learning the right things. As they ate, a staff member brought in a tablet. "You might want to see this, sir," she told William. "It's all over the news." On the screen was a photo of Louis giving his toy card to the crying girl at the hospital. Another showed him giving his royal pin to Sam. The headline said, "UNGST PRNC, Chevau's greatest heir." Other pictures showed Charlotte playing with the sick children and George talking seriously with the boy who loved space. There was the beautiful moment of William with Lily, the burned girl, and Kate, listening with real care to the nurse's stories. One headline simply read, "The future of the monarchy is Kate." William showed the children the pictures. "See, the world noticed your kindness today." Louis looked confused. "But that's just what we're supposed to do, isn't it? Be kind." William hugged his son. "Yes, that's exactly right. And that's what makes a good royal and a good person." Outside, the sun was setting. The busy day was ending. Tomorrow would bring new duties and challenges. But tonight, in their cozy kitchen with pizza and juice, they were simply a family, one that happened to be royal. And somewhere across the city, a little boy named Sam was showing his friends the royal pin that made him feel brave. A girl was holding a toy car that made her smile through her tears. And the burned girl named Lily was telling her mother, "A future king sat with me today, and he said I was brave." Small kindnesses that meant everything. The true power of royalty.